Hi everyone, Mike McConville here, Stratford, Ontario, Canada, again, for String Tech Workstations. We've got a pair of Strats in, American Strats. This is John's, longtime customer. It goes back, I don't know, God, it's got to be 25 years. Anyway, so this is a maple fingerboard Strat. This is being set up for 9 to 42 at concert pitch. We'll be putting a compensated nut on this one, and the tremolo will be set up to float. Now this Strat is also a local customer. Lou has been coming to me for the last few years with a few different guitars. This is his latest acquisition. So this is it's kind of a roll and ready. It's got the GK3 pickup in there, and then he's got a bunch of sounds he can dial up. Basically the same deal. We're going 10 to 46 as opposed to 10 to 42. Also a compensated nut. Now this is a rosewood fingerboard, and I thought it would be interesting to do the two guitars, the maple fingerboard and rosewood fingerboard, in tandem. This will give you a clear idea on the issues you face with the maple versus the rosewood fingerboard. As always, we'll give you a play-by-play and walk you through it. Now in both cases we're going to be heating and removing the nut in preparation for the full fret dress and of course the compensated nut. And this side. Now we'll give it a try and see how we do. Yeah, that's actually cooled off. I'm going to reheat it. I want that to be hot whenever. Okay, let's give that another try. So we've already scored it. Now we're just trying to extract it without... And that is what we're after. So you can see, of course, that the underside of the nut itself has a curvature to match the slot. The slot is not straight. It has a curvature to match the fingerboard. We got that out super cleaning it. We need to score the back edge of that nut as well as the front edge and both sides so that we avoid any chipping of the finish. The other reason we're taking the nuts out, other than the fact that we're making compensated nuts, is we want to be able to actually go full length to make sure that we get the playing surface along the trajectory, the string path, dead level on both these guitars. Okay, we've scored all the way around. Now we're going to reheat it. Okay, now we'll take a second run getting this out nice and clean. So let's see how we do this time. Okay, here's a little closer look. Once again, nice and clean. On the outside edge, you see that lacquer protruding above the surface of the floor. It's the same deal on both sides. So when you score that lacquer, you score it a little high. I will very carefully, with a razor blade, scrape that back flush with the floor. As you've heard me say in so many other videos, cover your tracks. You do it right, it should be flawless. Okay, so here is the primary difference between the rosewood fingerboard and maple fingerboard. We've completely encased the frets in masking tape so that the only thing that is exposed is the metal crown of the fret. It needs to be masked off very meticulously, very precisely, so that when we get into the buffing stage, there's no chance of smudging that beautiful white maple. And that is the primary difference between maple and rosewood when it comes to doing this job. Don't be in a hurry to pick up that file. We're not ready yet. We need to adjust that next. So when I put this short straight edge on there, you can hear that ticking? We need to back that truss rod off until that goes away. See, if I turn it like this, right? It'll tick. But so this is why I keep using the same phrase over and over. You need to go along the trajectory of the string path to get an accurate read. Now we took care of that, backed off the truss rod. Let's go to the next straight edge down. That longer straight edge didn't show us that, but that's still clicking. Gonna back that off a little bit further. See what happens now. Still clicking. Okay, we've backed that off as far as it can go, and it's still clicking. So we will need to address all those high spots. I am going to go to an even shorter straight edge again. It is important that you have the slightest amount of load on that truss rod, even if it does encourage the neck to go in a slight back bow. You don't want that nut rattling loose, so you need to put a bit of tension on it. And we will correct that one high spot. It's just this fret here. So let's move up the neck. Nothing else so far. Nothing else so far. So it's just that 1/3 fret that's going to need to be taken down a little bit. So let's go down to a shorter straight edge again. So now we're just bridging 3 frets. And there's our culprit right there, the center of, not the outside edge, just the center of the 3rd fret. So I'm going to mark that so we kind of know where we're going with this. Now we're bridging 3 frets at a time. The neck is actually very good. There's quite a bit of fret wear in it. John plays this thing. The lay of the neck along its length now is good. I'm going to go to a shorter straight edge again so we can keep bridging those 3 frets. Okay, so that's really the only area that has given us a little bit of grief, and it's just the center of the 3rd fret. Outside edges are fine. So here we go. This one spot here in the center is the only spot that needs to be leveled along the length of the neck. Now all of the other wear, the marks that you see here, this still doesn't warrant pulling a fret out. Okay, let's have a look at that other Strat. Like I had pointed out with John's Strat, don't be in a hurry to grab that file and start filing frets. Let's get the lay of the neck right first. Okay, so we'll start with this long straight edge and see if there's any ticking. And this actually seems to be pretty good. Nothing so far. Let's go to the next straight edge down. Try this one. No, it looks pretty good so far. No real nasty stuff. Okay. Let's go to the next one. See what happens here. Oh, all of a sudden now we're getting something. So on this outside edge, let me grab a piece of chalk and I'll mark it. I'm going to zero in with a shorter straight edge again to kind of make sure I get the right fret there. But look at this. When I'm in the center, no clicking. Outside edge, no clicking. Only on the base side do we get that ticking. So let's go to the next straight edge. So this is a smaller one again. This will really kind of tell the story. That's good. A little bit of ticking right here in the center on the 2nd fret. Yeah, actually, center to the treble side. Next fret, see, it's just here. I'm going to give you an aerial view of this after I get it chalked. Okay, good. This is good. Okay, so this also has, just in the center, there's a little bit of a high spot. And there is just a hint on the base side here, so you can see the longer straight edge did not pick any of that stuff up. Outside edge is good, just in the center. Here's the question you need to ask. If the frets are all sort of high in this area here, chances are you need to back off the truss rod like we did on that maple neck. So I'm going to put that Allen key on there and just get a feel for this truss rod. Kind of back it off a little bit. Yeah, it's actually pretty tight. Let's. So I backed it off just that little tiny bit, and let's see what happens now with these high spots. See, this one's still ticking a little bit. He got rid of this one, and this one's still ticking. This one is. It's interesting because I got rid of these 2 spots when I backed it off, just cracked that a little bit. But we still have a high spot here, and we still have a high spot here, and we still have a high spot on the base side. I'm going to go with that. We still have lots of adjustment left on that truss rod, but we've got that lay of the neck as straight as we possibly can. Any slight little high spots, we're going to nail them, redress, crown and polish. This thing will be perfect when we're done. So when I adjusted the truss rod, we got rid of the ticking on this center portion of the 4th fret. But the 6th fret, it was still ticking. And the outside of the 3rd fret and the treble side of the 2nd fret are still ticking. The rest of the fingerboard all the way up is good. So now we've got both Strats ready for level, recrown, and polish. Alright, that 3rd fret bass side is now good, no more ticking. The 2nd fret treble side is good. The 6th fret in the center, no more ticking. So that's it. Now we know right along the full length of the neck that the trajectory along the string path is dead flat. Okay, here's John's Strat. Now just that one high spot, very lightly. We'll check that with a straight edge in a second here. I am gonna go right along. You can hear, just by the sound of the file, you can hear there's no resistance there. This neck is extremely good. Just that one little bit of crunch in there on that one high spot that I pointed out earlier, the center of the 3rd fret. And that's a done deal. Let's check that high spot again. And that's it. No more ticking. Done. So this one's now ready to be recrowned, buffed out, and then we can get on with the compensated nut. Okay, John's 50th anniversary American Strat is done. So the frets were dressed, as you saw earlier. The fingerboard was masked off. We've got the compensated nut is done. Now this is 9 to 42 strings at concert pitch. We're going to show you in a second. When you use the bar, you should be able to give it 3 quick taps, and each string should come right back to center. This is our 50th anniversary plate. And we've got a higher quality Fender machine head on this. So the radius has been set. There was a spring missing for that first string. I put one in there. As we always do, we made up a radius gauge to match that fingerboard radius to the bridge saddles. And yeah, this is all intonated 100%. So have a look at the action on this bar. Okay, the strings are balanced now for this 9 to 42 at concert pitch. You can see it takes a second to float back to center. Because the design of the Strat tremolo is based on expansion springs, so this is why when you pull up on the tremolo, what you do is you slacken the pressure on the expansion springs, and they don't tend to come back to center as well. A compression spring is the opposite. You compress it and release. But the expansion spring, you need to stretch it out, which is what you do when you push down on the tremolo bar, and then when you release it, it comes back to center. So that's what you want to balance, the K value of the springs against the exact strings and the exact tuning that you've chosen for your Strat. In this case, it's concert pitch, 9 to 42, and that's what we got. 3 taps should come right back to center. And you can see it takes a second. It takes a second for it to float back to center. The lighter strings. Tuner's picking up my voice. Okay, just doing the final fit for the nut blank for Lou's Strat. And there's quite a bit more geometry going on with a Strat compensated nut than there is with a Les Paul nut, because the actual slot in the Stratocaster has the same radius as the fingerboard, so you can see that the actual ledge that overlaps the fingerboard needs to be radiused. The actual foot that goes into the slot needs to be radiused. So it's definitely more of a challenge than the Les Paul, which is just a straight slot. So as you can see, there's a lot more going on. Here's our next step. I used the original nut to get the string spacing. As I've mentioned in other videos, going to leave a little bit of forgiveness, make that a little too long. That's the last thing you're going to do when all the values have been cut and you've got everything perfect. Then, and only then, you'll trim off those outside ends. Just by virtue of its dimensions, a fender compensated nut is much more fragile. So digitally, the roll and pickup is picking up these strings, even though they're tuned to EADGB. What you're hearing is a G open tuning. Then I can switch to a D tuning. There's D tuning. Okay, so that's just dropping the low E string down to D. Here's another D tuning. So that's dad gad, and then there's 12-string guitar. 12-string with a bar. Here we go. 5 modes of the VG Stratocaster. N. Both of these have an N, these smaller knobs here, mean normal or non-modeling mode. S is a modeled Stratocaster. In this modeling mode, your guitar plays with the sound of a slightly different Stratocaster tone, but with some new possibilities. You now have the option of a 12-string sound or several different alternate tunings like you just saw me do. T is for Telecaster. The H is for humbucking. A is for acoustic. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so this is supposed to be an acoustic guitar sound, right? Well. Kinds of gadgets and gizmos to give you all kinds of sounds. Well, you can look that one up online. VG Stratocaster. There's our tuning. So the first knob is various tunings. So you've got normal, drop D, which is just the low E string tuned down to D, open G, which is D, G, D, G, B, D, D modal or dadgad. B is baritone. Okay, so you're in this mode, your guitar plays as a baritone guitar, so it's like a fifth lower. And then the 12-string. It's kind of cool. I'm going to play with this for a little bit. So you got your G tuning with the bar. Okay, what do we got next? We got, here's our D tuning. Okay, this is dadgad. Next one is, this is just drop D. So what it does is it drops that low E which is nice, especially with a tremolo bar, because normally if you drop that down, all the other strings are going to go out with a floating tremolo, but here you're digitally dropping that low E string down to D. Very cool. This is actually the large B on this dial stands for baritone, so now we're right in the basement. This is basically your humbucker mode, so it's your Strat with a humbucker pickup. Just a thicker sound. Let's go back to straight up Strat. And that's it for the VG Strat. I have to say that this thing does chew up the batteries pretty quickly. I know Lou was looking to get a power source kind of hardwired in because he goes through those 4 AA batteries in a hurry.